I found someone better. This is finished. My name is Blake. I'm 39 years old. I run a logistics company in Memphis, Tennessee. Or at least I did until that morning at brunch when my wife decided to blow up our marriage in front of her entire family. We were sitting at a long table in her parents' lakeside cabin. It was supposed to be a holiday, a reunion. Her mother had been planning it for months. Everyone was there. Her father, her two sisters, their husbands, her brother, even her grandmother who had driven 3 hours from Nashville. The smell of bacon and fresh coffee filled the air. People were laughing, passing plates, talking about the boat ride later that afternoon. Then she said it, just like that. No warning, no private conversation beforehand. She looked me dead in the eye, set down her fork, and spoke those words loud enough for everyone to hear. The table went silent. Her mother froze with a pitcher of orange juice halfway to a glass. Her father stopped mid-chew. One of her sisters actually gasped. I sat there. Didn't say anything. Just looked at her. My wife of 12 years. The woman I had helped build a life with. The woman who had been acting strange for months but always had an excuse when I asked. She didn't flinch. Didn't look away. There was something cold in her expression, something rehearsed. I leaned back in my chair, picked up my coffee, took a sip. Then I reached into the bag beside me, pulled out a folder and slid it across the table toward her mother. "Take a look," I said. Her mother's hands shook as she opened it. Her face went pale, then red, then pale again. My wife's expression shifted. Just a flicker. Just enough. That was the moment I knew. I had her. But let me back up. Let me tell you how it started. Because it didn't start that morning. It started 7 months earlier. In a way I didn't even see coming. I had been working late at the office. Again. It was the busy season. We had just landed a major contract with Gravline Systems, a manufacturing firm that needed our trucks running product up and down the East Coast. It was good money. The kind of money that could set us up for years. But it meant longer hours. Weekends at the warehouse, phone calls at night. My wife, Jenna, didn't complain. At least not at first. She seemed fine, supportive even. She would text me during the day, ask how things were going, tell me to take care of myself. Then the texts started getting shorter, less frequent. I noticed but didn't think much of it. We had been married 12 years. People go through phases. I figured she was just busy with her own stuff. She worked part-time at a boutique downtown, had her yoga classes, her book club, her friends. But then one night I came home around 10 and she wasn't there. No note, no text, nothing. I called her, no answer. I waited. She came home an hour later smiling, carrying a shopping bag. "Where were you?" I asked. "Out with Vanessa," she said. We lost track of time. I didn't push it. I trusted her. But it kept happening. More late nights, more vague explanations, more times when I would reach for her hand and she would pull away just a little too quickly. I started paying attention. Not in a paranoid way. Just in a way that said something was off. One night I was cleaning the car and found a receipt in the glove box. Dinner for 2 at a restaurant downtown. A place we had never been to together. The date on the receipt was from the week before. A night she told me she was at her sister's house. I didn't say anything. Not yet. I just started watching. Started keeping track. She became more secretive with her phone. Started taking calls in the other room. Started locking the screen when she set it down. Her sister's husband, a guy named Gregory, pulled me aside one night at a barbecue. "You good, man?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Why?" "I don't know. You just seem distant." I shrugged. Didn't tell him what I was thinking. Because the truth was, I didn't know what I was thinking. Not yet. I was still hoping I was wrong. But then I found the texts. Not by snooping. Not by breaking into her phone. She left it on the kitchen counter one morning while she was in the shower. It buzzed. I glanced at it, Saw a name I didn't recognize. The preview was enough. Can't wait to see you tonight. I didn't read the rest. Didn't need to. I set the phone back down, walked out to the garage, sat in my truck for 20 minutes, staring at nothing. That was when I decided. I wasn't going to blow up, wasn't going to yell, wasn't going to confront her right then and there. I was going to be smart about it. Because if she was doing what I thought she was doing, then I needed proof. I needed to know the truth before I made a move. So I started documenting everything. Every late night, every lie, every receipt, every text I could see without crossing a line. And the more I looked, the more I found. She wasn't just seeing someone. She was planning something. I noticed changes in our finances. Small things at first. Transfers from our joint account to her personal account. A few hundred here, 1,000 there. Nothing that set off alarms, but enough to raise questions. I checked the credit card statements, found charges I didn't recognize. Hotels, restaurants, gifts. I went to our bank, asked for copies of all the statements. Found out she had opened a separate account 6 months earlier. One I didn't know about. I didn't say anything, just kept gathering evidence because I knew something she didn't. Something that would change everything. And when she decided to drop that bomb at her family's holiday brunch, thinking she had the upper hand, thinking she could humiliate me in front of everyone and walk away clean, I was ready. I didn't panic, didn't get emotional. I just slid that folder across the table and watched her mother's face go pale. Because what was inside that folder was more than just proof of her affair. It was proof of something much worse. I grew up in Memphis, not the nice part. The part where you learned to work for everything you had. My dad ran a small trucking operation out of a rented lot on the south side. He wasn't rich, barely made enough to keep the lights on. But he taught me one thing. If you wanted something, you built it yourself. I started driving trucks for him when I was 16, learned the routes, learned the customers, learned how to fix an engine on the side of the highway at 2 in the morning. When he died 8 years ago, I inherited the business. It wasn't much. 3 trucks, a handful of contracts, a lot of debt. But I turned it around, paid off the loans, bought more trucks, hired good drivers, built relationships with bigger companies. Within 5 years, I had 20 trucks on the road and contracts worth millions. That was when I met Jenna. She was working at a coffee shop near the warehouse. I came in one morning, exhausted from an all-night haul, and she handed me a cup with a smile that made me forget how tired I was. We started talking. I kept coming back. Eventually, I asked her out. She was 27. I was 28. She had this energy about her. This way of making everything feel lighter. Like nothing was too serious. Like life was just something you enjoyed. I liked that about her. I needed that. We got married a year later. Small wedding. Just family and a few friends. Her parents liked me. Her father, a retired high school principal, said I reminded him of himself when he was younger. Hardworking. Focused. Her mother, a woman named Diane, was always polite but distant. She never said anything outright, but I got the sense she thought Jenna could have done better. Found someone with a college degree. Someone who wore a suit to work. But Jenna didn't care. At least not in the beginning. She moved into my house. Started talking about kids. Started making plans. Then the business took off. And with it, the hours got longer. I tried to balance it. Tried to be present. But there were weeks when I was barely home. Weeks when I would come back and she would already be asleep. Weeks when I would leave before she woke up. She started going out more. With her friends. With her sisters. With people I didn't know. I didn't mind at first. She deserved to have a life outside of waiting for me to come home. But then the late nights became a pattern, and the vague explanations became excuses. Where were you? Out. With who? Just some people from the boutique. What time did you leave? I don't know, Blake. Why does it matter? It mattered because she used to tell me everything, used to text me updates, used to call me on her way home just to talk. Now she didn't. Her sister Vanessa started acting strange around me too, avoiding eye contact, changing the subject when I walked into the room. Her brother, a guy named Tyler, asked me one night if everything was okay at home. Why wouldn't it be? I said. He shrugged. No reason. But I knew what he meant. People talk. Families notice things. I asked Jenna about it once. Are we good? She looked at me like I was crazy. Of course we are. Why? I don't know. You just seem different. I'm fine, Blake. You're just stressed. Maybe I was. Maybe I was reading into things that weren't there. But then I found the receipt. And then I saw the texts. And then I checked the bank statements and I realized I wasn't imagining anything. She was planning something bigger than just an affair. I started digging deeper, not just into her phone, not just into the accounts, but into everything. I found out she had been meeting with a lawyer, a divorce attorney. I found the consultation invoice buried in her email. I found out she had been talking to a real estate agent, looking at apartments, places she could afford on her own. And I found out she had been moving money, not just small amounts, tens of thousands, from our joint account, from the business account. That was the part that hit me hardest, because the business account wasn't just mine. It was the company. It was the employees. It was the contracts that kept 20 families fed. And she was draining it. Slowly, carefully, thinking I wouldn't notice. But I did. I went to my accountant, a guy named Felix who had been handling the books since my dad's time. I showed him the transfers, asked him if he could trace where the money went. He did. And what he found made my blood run cold. She wasn't just moving money to her personal account. She was moving it to an account in someone else's name, a man named Derek. I didn't know who Derek was, not at first, but Felix found out. He was a sales manager at a furniture store downtown, 35 years old, divorced, 2 kids, and he had been seeing Jenna for 6 months. Felix handed me a file, photos, bank records, text messages he had pulled from the phone records. "I'm sorry, man," he said. I didn't respond, just took the file, walked out to my truck, sat there for an hour, staring at the papers. She had been planning this for months, not just the affair, the whole thing, the divorce, the money, the new life. And she thought I didn't know. But I did. And I had been planning too, because the one thing she didn't know was that the business wasn't in my name anymore. It was in a trust I had set up 2 years earlier for tax purposes, a trust she had no access to. And the money she had been stealing? It wasn't from the business account. It was from a separate account I had set up just for her. An account I had been feeding with small transfers, knowing she would eventually take the bait. She thought she was outsmarting me, but I was 3 steps ahead. And when she decided to drop that bomb at her family's brunch thinking she had won, I was ready to show her just how wrong she was. The morning of the brunch, I woke up calm. Jenna was already awake. She had been packing for the trip the night before, humming to herself while she folded clothes and loaded her suitcase. She seemed lighter, happier than she had been in months. I didn't say anything, just watched her from the doorway. "You ready?" she asked, glancing at me. "Yeah," I said. "I'm ready." The drive to the cabin took 2 hours. She spent most of it on her phone, texting, smiling at the screen. I kept my eyes on the road, didn't ask who she was talking to, didn't need to. When we arrived, her family was already there. Her father was grilling sausages on the porch. Her mother was setting the table inside. Her sisters were sitting by the lake with their kids, laughing and tossing a ball back and forth. Jenna got out of the car and hugged everyone, acted like everything was perfect. I grabbed the bags, carried them inside, set them down in the bedroom we were supposed to share. Her mother asked if I wanted coffee. I said yes, sat down at the table while she poured me a cup. "Everything okay, Blake?" she asked. I looked at her. "Why wouldn't it be?" She hesitated. "No reason. You just seem quiet." I shrugged, took a sip of the coffee, didn't say anything else. The brunch started around 10. Everyone gathered around the long table on the porch. Plates were passed, food was served. Conversation flowed. Jenna sat across from me. She was talking to her sister, laughing about something I didn't hear. I ate quietly, watched, waited. Then, halfway through the meal, she set down her fork, looked at me, and said it. "I found someone better. This is finished." The words hung in the air. No one moved. No one spoke. Her mother dropped the pitcher she was holding. It didn't break. Just hit the table with a dull thud. Her father stopped chewing. His face went red. Her sisters stared at her like she had just announced she was joining a cult. Jenna didn't look at any of them. She kept her eyes on me, waiting for a reaction. I leaned back in my chair, picked up my coffee, took a slow sip. Then I reached into the bag beside me and pulled out the folder. I slid it across the table toward her mother. "Take a look," I said. Diane's hands trembled as she opened it. Her eyes scanned the first page, then the second, then the third. Her face went pale, then red, then pale again. She looked up at Jenna. "What is this?" Jenna's expression shifted, confusion, then concern, then panic. "What are you talking about?" she said. Diane turned the folder toward her. "This." Jenna leaned forward, read the first page. Her face drained of color. It was a bank statement, showing every transfer she had made, every withdrawal, every deposit into Derek's account. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the second document, a letter from my accountant, detailing how the money she had been stealing wasn't from the business account. It was from a separate account I had set up specifically to track her. And the third document, a copy of the trust, showing that the business, the house, the trucks, everything we had built, was in my name, not hers. She had no claim to any of it. Her mother stared at her. "You've been stealing from him?" Jenna's mouth opened, closed, opened again. "It's not like that." "Then what is it like?" her father said. His voice was low, dangerous. Jenna looked at me. "You set me up." I shook my head. "No. I gave you a chance to be honest. You chose not to take it." Her sister Vanessa leaned forward. "Who's Derek?" Jenna didn't answer. I did. "He's the guy she's been seeing for the past 6 months. The guy she's been moving our money to. The guy she was planning to leave me for." The table erupted. Her sisters started yelling. Her father stood up. Her mother just sat there, staring at the documents like she couldn't believe what she was seeing. Jenna tried to speak, tried to defend herself, but there was nothing she could say. The proof was right there, in black and white. I stood up, picked up my bag, looked at her one last time. "You wanted to do this in front of your family," I said. "So here we are." I walked out, got in my truck, drove away. I didn't look back, but I knew what was happening behind me. I knew her family was tearing into her. I knew her mother was demanding answers. I knew her father was probably telling her to get out. And I knew Jenna was realizing, for the first time, that she had made a mistake. Because she thought she was smarter than me, thought she could take what she wanted and walk away clean. But she didn't know me as well as she thought she did. I had been watching. I had been planning. And when she finally made her move, I was ready. The drive back to Memphis took 2 hours. I spent most of it thinking about what came next. The divorce would be ugly. She would fight. She would try to claim she was entitled to half of everything. But the trust protected me. The documents protected me. And the evidence of her theft would make sure she walked away with nothing. I wasn't angry, not anymore. I was just done. Because the truth was, I had been done for months. I had just been waiting for her to show her hand. And now that she had, I could finally move on. I pulled into the driveway of my house around 1 in the afternoon. The place was quiet, empty. I walked inside, set my bag down, sat on the couch. For the first time in months, I felt calm, because it was over. The lies, the pretending, the waiting. It was all over. And I had won. Not because I wanted to hurt her, not because I wanted revenge, but because I refused to let her take everything I had worked for. She thought she could outsmart me, thought she could humiliate me in front of her family and walk away with a smile. But I had been 3 steps ahead the whole time. And when she finally realized that, when she finally understood that she had lost, it was too late. I sat there for a long time, staring at the wall, thinking about the last 12 years, thinking about what I had built, what I had given up, what I had lost. But I wasn't broken. I was just getting started, because the one thing she didn't take from me was my ability to rebuild, and that was something she would never have. 3 days after the brunch, Jenna showed up at the house. I was in the garage, working on one of the trucks. The engine had been making a strange noise, and I wanted to check it before sending it back out on the road. I heard the car pull into the driveway, heard the door slam, heard her footsteps on the concrete. She appeared in the doorway, arms crossed, face tight with anger. "We need to talk," she said. I didn't look up, just kept working on the engine. "Nothing to talk about." "Yes, there is." I set down the wrench, wiped my hands on a rag, turned to face her. "Okay, talk." She stepped closer. "You humiliated me." I almost laughed. Almost. "I humiliated you? In front of my entire family." "You humiliated yourself," I said. "I just made sure everyone knew the truth." Her jaw tightened. "You set me up." "No. I gave you every opportunity to be honest. You chose not to." She looked away, looked back. "I want half." "Half of what?" "Half of everything. The house, the business, the trucks. All of it." I shook my head. "Not going to happen." "I'm entitled to it," she said. "We've been married 12 years. "You're not entitled to anything," I said. "The business is in a trust. The house is in a trust. You have no legal claim to any of it." Her face went red. "That's not fair." "What's not fair," I said, "is you stealing money from the business. Money that was supposed to pay salaries. Money that was supposed to keep the company running." "I didn't steal anything." "You moved $73,000 to Derek's account," I said. "That's theft." She flinched. "I was going to pay it back." "When?" She didn't answer. I picked up the wrench, turned back to the engine. "Get out." "Blake, get out," I said again, "and don't come back." She stood there for a moment. I could feel her staring at me. Then she turned and walked away. I heard the car start, heard it pull out of the driveway, heard the sound fade into the distance. I stood there holding the wrench, staring at the engine, and I realized something. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. She was going to fight. She was going to hire a lawyer. She was going to try to take whatever she could. But I was ready for that too, because I had already spoken to my lawyer. A woman named Patricia who specialized in divorce cases. She had looked at the trust documents, looked at the bank records, and told me exactly what I needed to hear. "She has no case," Patricia said. "The trust protects everything, and the evidence of theft gives you leverage. If she tries to fight this, she'll lose. Badly." I believed her, but I also knew Jenna, and I knew she wouldn't go down without a fight. 2 weeks later, I received a letter from her lawyer, a man named Gregory. Not the same Gregory married to her sister, a different one, an attorney from a firm downtown. The letter was formal, cold. It demanded a meeting to discuss the terms of the divorce. It claimed Jenna was entitled to half of the marital assets. It threatened legal action if I refused to negotiate. I showed the letter to Patricia. She read it, smiled. "They're bluffing." "How do you know?" "Because they don't have a case," she said. "They're hoping you'll panic and settle." "I'm not settling," I said. "Good," she said. "Then let's go to court." The court date was set for 2 months later. In the meantime, Jenna moved out of the house and into an apartment downtown. I didn't know where exactly, didn't care, but I heard things. Through mutual friends, through her family, through people who still talked to both of us. I heard she was struggling, that Derek had left her, that he didn't want to deal with the drama, that he had moved to another state and blocked her number. I heard her mother wasn't speaking to her, that her father had told her not to come to the house, that her sisters were keeping their distance. I heard she was working double shifts at the boutique, trying to pay for the lawyer, trying to make ends meet. I didn't feel sorry for her. I just felt nothing. Because the truth was, she had brought this on herself. She had made her choices, and now she was dealing with the consequences. But then something happened that I didn't expect. One night around 8, I got a call from an unknown number. I answered it. Blake? It was Vanessa, Jenna's sister. Yeah, I said. Can we talk? About what? About Jenna. I almost hung up. Almost. But something in her voice made me pause. What about her? She's not doing well, Vanessa said. She's barely eating, barely sleeping. She's a mess. That's not my problem, I said. I know, Vanessa said. But I thought you should know. Why? Because I think she realizes she made a mistake. I laughed. Couldn't help it. A mistake? She's sorry, Blake. She wants to fix this. There's nothing to fix, I said. She made her choice. Now she has to live with it. Vanessa sighed. I know you're angry, and you have every right to be, but she's still my sister, and I don't want to see her destroy herself. She's doing that on her own, I said. Not because of me. Vanessa didn't respond right away. Then she said, Will you at least think about talking to her? No, I said. Goodbye, Vanessa. I hung up, but the call stayed with me, not because I felt bad for Jenna, but because I realized something. She wasn't just fighting for money, she was fighting for control, for a way to salvage what was left of her life. And she thought if she could convince me to forgive her, to take her back, she could undo the damage she had done. But that wasn't going to happen, because I wasn't the same person I was 6 months ago. I wasn't the person who trusted her, who believed her, who let her get away with the lies. I was someone different now, someone harder, someone who had learned to protect himself, and I wasn't going back. The next day I got another letter, not from her lawyer, from her. It was handwritten, short, direct. Blake, I know I hurt you. I know I made mistakes, but I love you. I always have. Please give me a chance to make this right. Jenna. I read it once. Then I tore it up and threw it in the trash. Because love wasn't enough. Not when it came with lies. Not when it came with betrayal. And I wasn't going to let her manipulate me into giving her another chance. The court date approached. Patricia prepared the case. Gathered the evidence. Built the argument. And I prepared myself. For the fight. For the confrontation. For the moment when I would finally look Jenna in the eye and tell her it was over. But there was one more thing I needed to do. One more piece of the puzzle I needed to put in place. Because I wasn't just fighting for my assets. I was fighting for my dignity, for my reputation, for the proof that I had done nothing wrong, and I was going to make sure everyone knew it. So I called Felix, my accountant, the man who had helped me uncover the truth. I need you to do something for me, I said. What? I need you to file a report with the police about the theft. Felix hesitated. Are you sure? Yes, I said. I want it on record. I want everyone to know what she did. Okay, Felix said. I'll do it. 2 days later, the report was filed. And 2 days after that, Jenna received a visit from a detective. I wasn't there, but I heard about it. Through Patricia, through Felix, through people who knew people. The detective asked Jenna about the money, about the transfers, about Derek. She denied everything at first. Then she admitted some of it. Then she broke down and admitted all of it. The detective didn't arrest her. Not yet. But he told her the case was being reviewed. That charges could be filed. That she needed to get a criminal lawyer. That was when I knew. I had won. Not just the divorce, not just the assets, but the entire fight. Because she had thought she could outsmart me. Thought she could take what she wanted and walk away clean. But I had been smarter. I had been patient, and I had been willing to go further than she ever expected. And now she was facing not just the loss of her marriage, but the loss of her freedom. The detective's visit shook Jenna. I knew because her lawyer called mine 2 days later. Patricia answered the call in her office while I sat across from her. She put it on speaker. "My client would like to propose a settlement," Gregory said. His voice was tight, clipped, professional. Patricia leaned back in her chair. "What kind of settlement?" "She'll drop her claim to the marital assets in exchange for Blake dropping the theft charges." Patricia glanced at me. I shook my head. "Not interested," she said. "Blake?" Gregory started. "Not interested," Patricia repeated. "If your client wants to avoid charges, she needs to return the money, all of it, and she needs to sign the divorce papers without contesting anything." There was silence on the other end. Then Gregory said, "I'll discuss it with her." "You do that," Patricia said. Then she hung up. She looked at me. "You're sure about this?" "Positive," I said, "because if you push too hard, she might not cooperate. She might dig in." "Let her," I said. "I'm not backing down." Patricia nodded. "Okay, then we keep going." But something was bothering me. Something I hadn't been able to shake since the day of the brunch. How had Jenna gotten access to the business account in the first place? I had set up the trust 2 years earlier. I had created separate accounts. I had been careful. But somehow, she had been able to move money, and that didn't make sense. So I called Felix, asked him to dig deeper, to find out exactly how she had done it. He called me back 3 days later. "Blake, you need to come to my office." I drove over that afternoon. Felix was sitting at his desk, surrounded by papers and spreadsheets. "What did you find?" I asked. He handed me a file. "You're not going to like it." I opened it, scanned the documents, and felt my stomach drop. It wasn't just Jenna. There was someone else. Someone who had helped her. A name I recognized. A name I hadn't expected. Tyler, her brother. He worked in banking. Had worked at the same bank where I kept the business accounts. And according to the documents Felix had uncovered, he had used his access to create a backdoor into my account. He had given Jenna the login information, had helped her set up the transfers, had made sure they looked legitimate so no one would question them. I stared at the papers, read them again, couldn't believe what I was seeing. "Are you sure?" I asked. Felix nodded. I triple-checked. He's the one who gave her access. Without him, she never could have done it. I sat back in the chair, tried to process it. Tyler, the guy who had asked me if everything was okay at home, the guy who had acted concerned, the guy I had thought was on my side. He had been helping her the whole time. "Why?" I asked. Felix shrugged. "Money, maybe? Family loyalty, I don't know. But he's in deep. If the police find out he's looking at fraud charges, maybe jail time." I stood up, grabbed the file. "Thanks, Felix. What are you going to do?" "I'm going to make sure everyone knows the truth," I said. That night, I sat in my living room, staring at the file, thinking about Tyler, thinking about Jenna, thinking about how far they had been willing to go, and I realized something. This wasn't just about the money. This wasn't just about the affair. This was about control, about power, about them thinking they could take what they wanted and get away with it. But they were wrong, because I wasn't going to let them. The next day I called Patricia, told her what Felix had found. She reviewed the documents, made a few calls, then called me back. "This changes everything," she said. "How?" "Because now it's not just theft, it's fraud, conspiracy, and if Tyler was involved, that opens up a whole new set of charges." "Good," I said. "You want me to send this to the detective?" "Yes," I said. "Send it all." She did, and 2 days later, Tyler received a visit from the same detective who had questioned Jenna. I wasn't there, but I heard about it, through mutual friends, through people who knew the family. Tyler denied everything at first, then he admitted some of it. Then he broke down and admitted all of it. He had helped Jenna because she had asked him to. Because she had told him I was abusive. Because she had convinced him she needed the money to get away. It was all lies. But he had believed her, and now he was facing the consequences. The detective told him he was being investigated, that charges could be filed, that he needed to cooperate if he wanted any chance of a reduced sentence. Tyler agreed, and as part of his cooperation, he gave a full statement, detailing everything, the back door, the transfers, the plan. And when Patricia received a copy of the statement, she called me. "You need to see this," she said. I went to her office, read the statement, and realized something I hadn't known before. It wasn't just Jenna and Tyler. Diane, Jenna's mother, had known about it. Not the whole plan, not the affair, but the money. According to Tyler's statement, Diane had approached him 6 months earlier, had told him Jenna needed help, had asked him to find a way to move money from my accounts. She had said I was controlling, that I was keeping Jenna trapped, that she needed financial independence. Tyler had believed her, and he had done what she asked. I read the statement twice. Couldn't believe what I was seeing. Diane, the woman who had always been polite but distant, the woman who had looked at me like I wasn't good enough for her daughter. She had been part of it. I set down the statement, looked at Patricia. "Can you prove this?" "Tyler's statement is proof," she said, "but if you want to go after Diane, you'll need more." "Like what?" "Bank records, emails, text messages, anything that shows she was involved." I thought about it, thought about what it would mean to go after Diane, to drag her into this. But then I remembered the look on her face at the brunch, the way she had turned pale when she saw the documents, the way she had stared at Jenna like she couldn't believe what she was seeing. She had been playing a part, acting shocked, acting innocent. But she had known, the whole time, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. "Find the proof," I said. Patricia nodded. "I'll start digging." It took 2 weeks, but she found it. Emails between Diane and Tyler, discussing the plan, discussing how to move the money, discussing how to make sure I didn't find out. Text messages between Diane and Jenna, encouraging her to leave, telling her she deserved better, telling her I wasn't good enough, and bank records showing that Diane had received $10,000 from Jenna, transferred from the same account where the stolen money had been deposited. It was all there, in black and white. Patricia showed me the evidence. "This is enough to file charges against Diane, too." I nodded. "Do it." "Are you sure?" Patricia asked. "This is going to blow up her entire family." "They already blew it up," I said. "I'm just making sure everyone knows the truth." She filed the report, and 2 days later Diane received a visit from the detective. I wasn't there, but I heard about it, through people who knew people. Diane denied everything, claimed she had no idea what Tyler had done, claimed she had never asked him to help Jenna. But the evidence was there, and the detective didn't believe her. He told her she was being investigated, that charges could be filed, that she needed to get a lawyer. And that was when I knew. It was over. Not just for Jenna, not just for Tyler, but for the entire family. They had thought they could take me down, thought they could steal from me, thought they could ruin me. But I had been smarter. I had been patient. And I had been willing to go further than they ever expected. And now they were all facing the consequences. The court date arrived on a cold morning in late October. The air had that sharp edge to it, the kind that made you pull your jacket tighter and walk faster. I got to the courthouse early. Patricia met me outside. She was carrying a briefcase and wearing the kind of expression that said she was ready for war. "You ready?" she asked. "Yes," I said. We walked inside, went through security, made our way to the courtroom on the 3rd floor. Jenna was already there, sitting at a table with Gregory. She looked thinner than I remembered. Her face was pale, her hair pulled back in a tight ponytail. She glanced at me when I walked in, then looked away. Tyler was there too, sitting in the back row. He didn't look at me, just stared at the floor. Diane wasn't there, but I knew why. She was dealing with her own legal problems now, and she didn't want to be seen anywhere near this. The judge entered. Everyone stood. The bailiff called the case, and the hearing began. Gregory went first. He laid out Jenna's position, claimed she was entitled to half of the marital assets, claimed the trust was invalid, claimed I had hidden money and property to keep it away from her. Patricia listened, took notes, didn't interrupt. Then it was her turn. She stood, walked to the front of the courtroom, and laid it all out. The trust, the theft, the affair, the conspiracy, the involvement of Tyler and Diane. She presented the bank records, the emails, the text messages, Tyler's statement. She presented evidence of every transfer Jenna had made, every lie she had told, every dollar she had stolen. And she presented the proof that I had done nothing wrong, that I had built the business from the ground up, that I had protected my assets legally, that I had every right to keep what I had earned. The judge listened, asked questions, reviewed the documents, and when Patricia finished, the judge looked at Jenna. "Do you have a response to these allegations?" the judge asked. Jenna opened her mouth, closed it, looked at Gregory. Gregory stood. "Your Honor, my client admits that mistakes were made, but she maintains that she is entitled to a fair division of the marital assets." The judge frowned. "Mistakes were made? Your client stole over $70,000 from her husband's business. That's not a mistake. That's theft." Gregory shifted. "Your Honor, and based on the evidence presented," the judge continued, "it's clear that the assets in question are protected by a legal trust. Your client has no claim to them." Jenna's face crumpled. She looked like she might cry, but she didn't. The judge looked at me. "Do you wish to pursue criminal charges?" I glanced at Patricia. She nodded. "Yes," I said. The judge made a note. "Very well. I'm granting the divorce. All marital assets will remain in the trust. The defendant has 30 days to vacate any shared property, and I'm referring this case to the district attorney for review." The gavel came down. It was over. Jenna stood up, walked out of the courtroom without looking at me. Tyler followed her, head down, shoulders slumped. I stayed seated, took a breath, let it sink in. Patricia sat beside me. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said. "I'm good." We walked out of the courthouse together. The air outside felt colder than before, but I didn't mind, because it was done. The fight was over, and I had won. But I knew the story wasn't finished yet, because Jenna and Tyler and Diane were still facing criminal charges, and those charges were going to follow them for a long time. I went back to work the next day. Back to the warehouse, back to the trucks, back to the routine. But it felt different now. Lighter, like a weight had been lifted. My employees noticed, asked if I was okay. I told them I was fine, better than fine, and I was. Because the truth was, I had been carrying this burden for months. The lies, the betrayal, the uncertainty, and now it was gone. A week after the hearing, I got a call from the district attorney, a woman named Lauren. She had reviewed the case, she had reviewed the evidence, and she was moving forward with charges. "We're charging all 3 of them," she said. Jenna for theft, Tyler for fraud and conspiracy, Diane for aiding and abetting. "What kind of sentences are we looking at?" I asked. "Depends on how the trial goes," she said. "But based on the evidence, I'd say Jenna is looking at 2 to 5 years. Tyler might get more. Diane might get probation if she cooperates." "Okay," I said. "Are you willing to testify?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "Good," she said. "We'll be in touch." I hung up, sat at my desk, stared at the phone, and I realized something. This wasn't about revenge. It never had been. It was about justice, about making sure they faced the consequences of what they had done. because they had thought they could get away with it, thought they could take from me and walk away clean. But they were wrong, and now everyone would know it. Over the next few months, the case moved forward. Slowly, painfully, but it moved. Jenna's lawyer tried to negotiate a plea deal, but Lauren refused. She wanted this to go to trial. Tyler cooperated, gave more statements, turned over more evidence, hoping for a reduced sentence. Diane hired the best lawyer she could afford, tried to fight the charges, but the evidence was too strong. And through it all, I kept working, kept building, kept moving forward, because that was what I did. That was who I was, and I wasn't going to let them take that from me. The trial was set for the following spring, 6 months after the divorce, 6 months after the hearing. And as the date approached, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not because I wanted to see them punished, but because I knew the truth would come out, because I knew everyone would see what they had done. And that was enough. One night, a few weeks before the trial, I was sitting on the porch of my house, drinking a beer, watching the sun set. My phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered it anyway. Blake? It was Vanessa. Yeah, I said. Can we talk? I hesitated. About what? About everything, she said. I sighed. Okay. She came over an hour later. We sat on the porch, didn't say anything for a while, then she spoke. I'm sorry, she said, for what Jenna did, for what Tyler did, for all of it. I nodded, didn't say anything. I didn't know, she said. I swear I didn't know. I believe you, I said. She looked at me. Do you hate her? I thought about it. No, I don't hate her. I'm just done with her. Vanessa nodded, wiped her eyes. She's not doing well. The trial is killing her. That's not my problem, I said. I know, Vanessa said. I just thought you should know. We sat there for a while longer. Then she left, and I stayed on the porch, watched the stars come out, thought about everything that had happened, and I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't bitter. I was just ready to move on, because the truth was I had built something real, something that couldn't be taken away, and no matter what happened in the trial, no matter what they said or did, I still had that. I still had me. The trial began on a Tuesday morning in late April. The courtroom was packed. Friends, family, people who had heard about the case and wanted to see how it would end. I sat in the front row, Patricia beside me, Lauren, the district attorney, at the prosecutor's table. Jenna sat at the defendant's table with Gregory. She looked worse than she had at the divorce hearing, thinner, paler, like she hadn't slept in weeks. Tyler sat at another table with his lawyer. He didn't look at me, didn't look at anyone. Diane sat in the back, alone, her lawyer beside her. She stared straight ahead, expressionless. The judge entered. Everyone stood. The bailiff called the case, and the trial began. Lauren went first. She presented the evidence, the bank records, the emails, the text messages, Tyler's statement. She called me to the stand, asked me to explain what had happened, how I had discovered the theft, how I had built the case. I told the truth. Simple, direct, no embellishment. Then Gregory cross-examined me, tried to poke holes in my story, tried to make it seem like I had set Jenna up. But it didn't work, because the evidence was too strong, and the jury could see it. Then Lauren called Tyler. He took the stand, admitted everything, told the jury how he had helped Jenna, how he had created the back door, how he had believed her lies. Then she called Diane. She took the stand, tried to deny it, tried to claim she had no idea what was happening. But Lauren had the emails, the text messages, the bank records, and when she presented them, Diane's face went pale. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. When they came back, the verdict was unanimous. Guilty. All 3 of them. Jenna broke down, started crying. Gregory put a hand on her shoulder, but it didn't help. Tyler just sat there, staring at the table, Diane stood up, walked out of the courtroom without a word. The judge scheduled sentencing for 2 weeks later, and when the day came, I was there. Jenna was sentenced to 4 years in prison. Tyler got 5. Diane got 2 years probation and a fine. The judge read the sentences. The bailiff led them away, and I walked out of the courtroom, into the sunlight, into the rest of my life. Patricia walked beside me. "How do you feel?" I thought about it. "Relieved." She nodded. "You should be. You won." "I know," I said, but it didn't feel like winning. It just felt like the end, because the truth was, I had lost something too. 12 years of my life. A marriage I had believed in. A family I had thought was mine. But I had gained something more important. My dignity, my self-respect, my ability to trust myself again, and that was worth more than anything they could have taken. I drove home from the courthouse alone. The roads were quiet. The sky was clear. When I got to the house, I sat in the driveway for a while, just thinking about everything that had happened, about everything I had been through, and I realized something. I was okay. Not perfect, not happy, but okay, and that was enough. I got out of the truck, walked inside, set my keys on the counter. The house was quiet, empty, but it didn't feel lonely, it felt like mine. I poured myself a drink, sat on the couch, looked around, and I started thinking about what came next. The business was doing well. Better than ever, actually. The contracts were solid. The employees were happy. The trucks were running. I had built something real, something that couldn't be taken away, and I wasn't going to let anyone ruin it again. Over the next few months, I focused on work, on rebuilding, on moving forward. I hired new drivers, bought more trucks, signed bigger contracts, and slowly, things started to feel normal again. I heard through mutual friends that Jenna was serving her sentence in a minimum security facility outside of Memphis, that she was working in the prison kitchen, that she wasn't doing well. I didn't feel sorry for her. I just felt nothing. Tyler was in a different facility, serving his time, keeping his head down. Diane had moved out of state, cut ties with most of the family. Vanessa told me she had heard from her once, but that was it. The family had fallen apart, just like I knew it would, because they had thought they could take from me and get away with it, thought they could lie and cheat and steal, but they couldn't, and now they were paying the price. One afternoon, about 6 months after the trial, I was sitting in my office when Vanessa called. "Blake?" "Yeah," I said. "I just wanted to say thank you." "For what?" "For not giving up," she said. "For fighting back, for showing me what it means to stand up for yourself." I didn't know what to say, so I just said, "You're welcome." "I know you probably don't want to hear from me," she said, "but I wanted you to know. You did the right thing." "I know," I said. She hung up, and I sat there for a while, thinking about what she had said, and I realized something. She was right. I had done the right thing, not just for me, but for anyone who had ever been betrayed, anyone who had ever been stolen from, anyone who had ever been lied to. I had shown them that you didn't have to take it, that you could fight back, that you could win, and that was something worth being proud of. I closed my laptop, locked up the office, drove home. The sun was setting. The sky was turning orange and pink. The air was warm, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Not for a new relationship, not for a new marriage, but for a new chapter. A chapter where I was in control, where I made the rules, where I decided what came next, and that was all I needed. Jenna served 3 years before being released on parole. She moved to another city, worked odd jobs, and struggled to rebuild her life. Tyler served his full sentence and was released 2 years after her, but the fraud conviction followed him everywhere. No bank would hire him. No company would trust him. Diane never recovered from the scandal. Her marriage fell apart, her friends abandoned her, and she spent the rest of her years alone, haunted by the role she had played in her daughter's downfall. The family name was tarnished, their reputations ruined, and the consequences of their greed and betrayal became a permanent stain they could never wash away. I sat on my porch that night, drink in hand, looking out at the life I had rebuilt from the wreckage they tried to leave me in.